What's going on, everybody? What is going on? It is Thursday, May 8th, 2025, and we are back with another live here on the Torian Rain Reloaded channel. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to go ahead and hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button if you are new. And if you are new to the channel, I'm glad that you are here. Make sure that you hit the bell twice to be notified whenever I upload a new video or go live, or simply join the Discord and you can get the notification in there. Before we get into everything, let me go ahead and acknowledge the people in the chat or those who came in early. We got Raging Woody, Ms. Nisi, we got Jonathan Gonzalez, and also shout out to Jonathan. Today is his birthday, so make sure y'all send some happy birthday shout outs to Jonathan in the chat. We also got Jason, we got Don P, we got Reparations Nation, we got Valesia, Wallow J, Brother Man to You, Cosma Fury, Brother Reef, Tia to You, Dark Samurai, Weldon Johnson, News for Thought, and that is it so far. Okay, so today we will be going over Caysen Allison. I feel like I don't even have to ask y'all who Caysen Allison is. By now, many of you have already known about it. Myself and Afro touched on that a little bit on the live that we did a few nights ago. But luckily for me and for you, because I was trying to find some things to put together to make this live stream flow perfectly. And I couldn't find like articles dating back to like something like of a timeline, so to speak, leading up to the actual trial itself and, of course, the outcome of it. But when I was looking through, something fell in my lap that was created 7 days ago on YouTube, where someone, I don't know who, put together a whole timeline of the Caysen Allison subject leading all the way up to the trial and what came out of the trial. It was posted 7 days ago. The video is about 37 minutes long. So I'm just giving y'all a heads up. And I said, thank you, because this actually made this work perfectly for me. And what is a motto we usually go by? Work smarter, not harder. But for those of y'all who are unaware about what's going on with Caysen Allison back in 2022 got into an altercation with another high school student, in which it led to the death of that student by stabbing. It was multiple stab wounds. I believe it was like 4 of them, if I'm not mistaken. It all happened inside of the boys' bathroom or restroom. And it happened back in 2022. And many of us didn't hear about this story until last month, when everything was going down with Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf. And the reason why it came out like that is because the stories played out almost, well, they tried to play them out similarly, but there are vast differences between the two. And then another thing that I said one of the worst things that could have came out for this, as far as the usual suspects go, is that they're like the thumbnail suggests, the blatant hypocrisy is real. And of course, when they got wind of it, they tried to flip it and turn it into whatever narrative they could try to turn it into. You know how they do. But what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to share the screen, and we're going to go from there. Like I said, everything that we're going to get out of this live today is going to come from this one video. And let me see if I can shout out the person who did it. KCN News. I'm not exactly sure where they are out of, but they posted this 8 days ago. It's 8 days now, but it was 7 days yesterday. And this is a complete timeline of the Caysen Allison murder case from 6 News. Allison was found guilty of criminally negligent manslaughter on April 29th, 2025. Like I said, if I would have been able to, well, now that I think about it, April 29th, I was back from my trip already. So either way, I would have had to wait to do this until after the fact, because that was my plan, was to wait until all the information had came out as far as the verdict to go live about it. So negate what I was getting ready to say. But shout out to KCN News. And one thing I noticed is, well, yesterday, I think they had the comments turned off. I guess they turned them back on. But let's go ahead and see what they're talking about as it pertains to this story.
We are learning more about the Belton High School student who died after being stabbed at school, allegedly by another student.
Belton police identified him as 18-year-old Jose Luis Ramirez Jr., a senior at the school. He died at Baylor Scott and White Medical Center tonight from his injuries.
And 6 News anchor Bailey Bates has been following this devastating story today. She joins us live in studio now with more. Bailey? Leslie, Chris, it was a very somber day in the Belton community. Feelings of uneasiness, confusion, and sorrow took over after the stabbing at Belton High this morning. But tonight, not every parent is getting to hold their loved one. A scary situation at Belton High School Tuesday when the school was put on lockdown for a reported stabbing.
I'm in shock because I have an older son that graduated from here in 2018, and it's always been a great school. I'm in shock.
Pamela Owen rushed to pick up her 2 kids from school after getting a text she never expected.
Got the text from my son saying they're barricaded in a room, but he's safe. So what does a mom do? We panic.
Belton ISD opened Tiger Field as a reunification center with hundreds of parents and guardians waiting in line to get their loved ones.
I've been in crazier situations at school.
Emotions were high as unanswered questions loomed.
They're all right. They're a little in shock. You know, I mean, we didn't expect something like this to happen. I mean, who does?
Belton police say an altercation between 2 seniors happened in the men's restroom just before 10 a.m. And then 18-year-old Caysen Allison allegedly stabbed 18-year-old Jose Joe Ramirez. Ramirez died at the hospital Tuesday afternoon from the violent act.
He know how to make you crack a smile, know how to crack a joke, know how to make you laugh. Regardless of anything, he was always there for you. And it's really who Joe was. He was always that person that even when you didn't see him, you knew he was there.
Tuesday evening, Martin Martinez and other friends and family gathered to remember their friend. Lots of tears shed as they didn't expect to have to say goodbye this soon.
Still in shock. I think everybody's still kind of processing it, doesn't really believe it.
The sea of red, Ramirez's favorite color, will keep moving forward, honoring his life and how there was never a dull moment, and their memories will never fade. A GoFundMe has been created to help Joe's family as they grieve a young life loss. You can find that link on our website, kcntv.com. We've also known that Belton High School has canceled classes for tomorrow as the school will be closed. Chris, Leslie.
All right, thanks, Bailey. Now, Belton Mayor Wayne Carpenter released this statement today saying in part, quote, "I am deeply saddened by the tragic incident at Belton High School today and send my prayers to all of those who have been impacted by it, particularly to the young victim and his family," end quote. He went on to say, "On behalf of all Beltonians, I want all students, faculty, and staff at Belton High School and Belton ISD to know that they are in our thoughts and prayers." The Belton High School student charged with stabbing his classmate to death has been indicted by a Bell County grand jury for murder. In early May, 18-year-old Caysen Allison was arrested for allegedly stabbing 18-year-old Joe Ramirez multiple times in a school bathroom. Ramirez died at a local hospital. According to an arrest affidavit, several students witnessed Allison stab Ramirez. The affidavit claims that Allison was arrested a short time later at his home and then admitted to the stabbing.
All right, so that's the first part right there. Like I said, all the clips that you're watching right now is, like they said, it's a timeline from when they first reported the story, and it's moving on up. So the first 2 parts was May 3rd, 2022, and the next part was June 9th, 2022. And notice now it's a gap between 2022 and 2024. So now you have a 2-year gap that has occurred from when the story first was reported to nearly a year ago. But Cap, I don't know if you heard me through the audio, but I was asking, did you hear about the story? Since you said it was like Belton is 15 minutes from you, so you're local, so I'm sure you probably heard about it because it was more, they treated it more as a local story, which is interesting because I said that what happened between Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf, that should have been treated as more of a local story, but the usual suspects, they saw it for what it was, and then they blew it up, and then it became a national story. If they treated what happened with Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf like they did this story, we would have never known about it. Outside of the people that live in Texas, specifically near that area. But now they made it a big national thing. Thank you, usual suspects. Oh, Cap said you never heard about it. And see, that's another one of the things I always say too, is that you could live in an area and you may not have never heard about it. You said you 15 minutes away from this location and you never heard of this story. I won't fault you for that. We know why. I think we have a general understanding as to why they did not put this story out there like they should have.
Well, the trial of Caysen Allison, the Belton High School student charged in a stabbing murder of his classmate, has been rescheduled. The trial was originally set for May 20th, but was delayed for parties to review potential evidence. 6 News anchor Bailey Bates is live in our studio tonight with the latest on this 2-year-old case. We won't know the outcome for a while now, Bailey.
Yeah, Lindsay, we know in today's hearing, the judge, the prosecutor, and the defense attorney agreed to start the trial on January 13th of next year. That's when a Bell County jury will decide the fate for Caysen Allison. He's accused of stabbing and killing classmate Joe Ramirez in a Belton High bathroom on May 3rd, 2022. 2 years ago, 6 News obtained an arrest affidavit that said Ramirez was stabbed in the chest back, legs, and arm. That affidavit also stated police obtained video that showed Allison stab Ramirez before the video abruptly comes to an end. According to online court records, we know that part of the reason trial has been delayed is for both the state and the defense to sort through and prepare potential evidence, including camera footage and several cell phones. A spectator in the courtroom at today's hearing tells me Caysen was present the first time in a while, and the defense attorney told the judge he had conflicts for much of the year, leaving the trial to not start until next year. Allison is out on bond, and we will keep you updated as we continue to follow this case, Lindsay. The trial of Caysen.
Now, notice too that where they said the locations in which he was stabbed in, they said the chest, the back, the arm, and the legs. That means he was going crazy with the knife, because usually with the knife, they said he was stabbed in these multiple locations, not cut. Cut would mean, you're swiping with the knife. With the stab, you're jabbing. So he was going crazy with that knife he was using, which means he had to he had to find those locations, because if you're going after someone in one particular location, you're going to stay there. But they said he was stabbed in multiple locations: the chest, the back, the arm, and the leg. And remember, they came there, and they might mention it, hopefully they do, that they mutually was going to fight. Like, this was a mutual thing. It wasn't like an ambush attack. They decided that they were going to meet this place at this time to square up. Now, the victim did not have a weapon on him, but Caysen Allison did. That's why a lot of people were saying, why wasn't this seen as premeditated? Because he came to the fight with the knife, knowing that they were going to have a physical altercation. To the people that just came into the chat, what you're looking at is a timeline of the case itself. So I don't know if y'all see, but if y'all look at the dates in the top left corner of the screen, like where it says 12/10/2004, they're doing a timeline of it. The case is done. The trial is over. The trial ended on April 29th of this year. So it's going back to when all of this first happened, and it's leading up to the trial itself and the outcome of the trial. And basically is all reports from this news affiliate.
Caysen Allison is being delayed a third time. According to Bell County court records, Allison is facing murder charges for the death of his 18-year-old classmate, Jose Joe Ramirez Jr. The two allegedly got into a fight inside a school bathroom where Allison pulled a knife and stabbed Ramirez several times. The trial was set to begin January 13th. Now the trial is scheduled for March 31st. There is currently no word as to the reason for the additional delayment.
Today marks.
I can just about guess. They just said that the trial was delayed 3 times. That's why the trial just happened last month. So basically, this trial was supposed to have been happened last year. Don P said places about an injury. It sounds like the victim was fleeing, probably because he wasn't expecting to see a knife. He was fleeing. If that's the case and he was trying to leave, that's why he was not expecting for that knife to pop out. But no one would. I mean, you get into a fist fight, you're not expecting that. So what, that theory, that's a good one. And what's going on, the Informant Media and Dewani, and also shout out to Tia to you as well.
The beginning of the trial for a former Belton High student.
So now we're in last month. So now we're in April of this year. And I'm guessing this is where the bulk of the rest of the video is going to remain at.
Indicted for murder. Caysen Allison, who was 18 at the time, has been accused of murdering his classmate Joe Ramirez in a Belton High School bathroom. Ramirez was stabbed multiple times and later died from the injuries. 6 News reporter Sydney Walker was in the courtroom today. Sydney, what did you learn?
I got here about 8:45 a.m. and the hallways of the Bell County Justice Center were jam-packed. That's largely because this jury pool consists of 120 people. When the trial begins, it will take place in District Court 478, which is Judge Faulkner's court, but the hearing today was in District Court 146 simply to accommodate the number of people. During today's proceedings, Allison sat quietly between his 2 defense attorneys. If found guilty, he faces between 5 to 99 years in prison or life. Judge Faulkner mentioned to the court he was aware of the high media coverage of this case and told jurors to avoid learning information outside of the court. There were also notices on the courtroom doors prohibiting recording and the use of cameras. When the hearing began, several jurors were dismissed or opted out. The state went first with its questions for the potential jurors, focusing heavily on the distinction between self-defense and deadly force, repeatedly asking where they drew the line between the two. Only late in the afternoon, around 2-ish, did they present vague details about the case. Once they revealed that the case involved school violence and a stabbing at Belton High, nearly 40 jurors raised their card to acknowledge they had previous knowledge of the case. Many expressed concern about the ability to remain unbiased. We will be hearing mostly from Allison's defense team tomorrow, since they didn't start their questioning until about 4-ish today, and then court convened about 4:30. But they did tell us today that they were here in defense of the law, not in defiance of the law. Jury selection will continue tomorrow, and the trial is expected to start in court on April 14th and will end no later than April 25th. I'll be here for you through it all.
Of course, now that we know it ended on April 29th, so it did go beyond its expected end date, and it went in 4 extra days. That was probably the deliberating period.
Morning didn't really get started until around 9:30, and what followed was Allison pleading not guilty. The witnesses were called to testify today, but overall today gave us a clearer picture of what went down in Belton High School hallways that May 3rd day. The prosecutor began in their opening statements revealing there is a recording of the incident. They also said that the conflict between Joe and Caysen began after an incident at a prom after party, and that Joe swung at Caysen first, accompanied by 4 others in that bathroom. The defense countered by saying that Allison was not guilty of murder because, quote, Caysen survived what could have very well...
I want more details about this prom incident, because this is the first time since I started playing this video that they give a little bit of details of what led to the altercation. Because all we heard was that they just got into a fight in the restroom and that Caysen Allison stabbed him multiple times and he died. But they didn't go into detail. So now we have a bit of insight on where this began. It was apparently at some kind of a prom event. So it was at a social gathering, a social event. You know what prom is. And you know what? Why do I have the strongest feeling is about to be over a girl? Why do I feel like it's about to be over a girl? That's where I'm leaning towards.
Well, been death or bodily injury by a group beatdown. The defense also made a motion to exclude photo and video evidence, which was denied by Judge Faulkner. The jury also saw security footage of the Belton High School hallways showing the students entering the bathroom and running out. This included video of Ramirez running out with a trail of blood behind him and eventually collapsing. Several witnesses took the stand today, including 911 dispatcher Amy Retz, security officer Philip Douglas Taylor, and teachers who responded to the scene. You can read more about the witnesses' testimony at kcentv.com. The trial is expected to continue tomorrow with more witnesses called to testify. I'll have more updates for you then.
5 more witnesses took the stand today in the murder trial of Caysen Allison.
Allison is facing charges alleging he stabbed and killed fellow Belton High School student Joe Ramirez. 6 News reporter Sydney Walker was back in the courtroom for day 2 of the trial. And Sydney, what did you hear from today?
Today, we heard from a Belton PD detective who was there that day on the scene, as well as a close friend of Caysen's who tried to break up the fight before it even happened, plus 3 boys who were in the bathroom the day of the fight when it occurred. Yesterday, we heard a lot from staff about what Joe's injuries were and the response that was taken, but today was focused way more on the dynamics between the 2 boys, as well as the...
So I'm looking at the chat and y'all are saying apparently it was over a girl. Brother Man said they did mention that it was over a girl almost a year ago, but nobody's mentioning that part. And many of y'all saying it was over a girl. So I guess we're going to go with that as the common consensus. Because when they said prom, I said, I bet you it was over a girl.
Respective friend groups. For instance, after multiple graphic crime scene photos were shown, we learned from a Belton PD detective's testimony that he had obtained a video taken inside the bathroom by one of Joe's friends. His friend admitted Ramirez liked to have his fights recorded, but that he deleted the video because he was, quote, scared of what happened. The video shows Ramirez punching Allison, and Allison swinging back a knife in his right hand. Allison is later cornered, and a scream can be heard coming from...
So that sounds to me like Jose Ramirez was getting the best of him based on what you just said. It said he was punching him, and the times that Caysen Allison did swing back, he had the knife in his hand. So he knew he was getting the best of him in that fight. And the best way he could feel like he could win was to stab him. And that's what he did. And he did it 4 times. And he ended up dying.
Ramirez. We're also learning more about what led to that May 3rd day. Multiple witnesses today shared that the tension between the 2 began at a prom after party at Allison's girlfriend's house. And that plans to fight after school and off campus were in place. Allison's friends testified that he had told her about the plans, but, quote, he didn't want to fight. He wanted to graduate.
Now listen to that. They said it was a prom after party, so it wasn't at the prom itself. It was at an after party after the prom, and they mentioned Caysen Allison's girlfriend. So apparently he has a girlfriend. So now we know that it was an after party at the prom. It did involve a girl, his girlfriend. Hopefully they can elaborate even more into that.
We ran out of time during the testimony of one of the boys who was in the bathroom, but he's set to return tomorrow when the trial returns at 9 a.m. To read more about what the witnesses testified today, go to kcentv.com.
Today, testimony continued in the murder trial of Caysen Allison, a former Belton High student accused of stabbing and killing a fellow student. 6 News reporter Sydney Walker was back at the Bell County Justice Complex. Sydney, what'd you learn?
Today, we heard from 3 more boys who were present in the bathroom during the fight. Plus, we got more context about what happened at a prom after party that caused tension between Allison and Ramirez. The first boy, who had already been questioned by the state yesterday, faced cross-examination today. The defense asked him, quote, "Would you wait for the second punch?" And, quote, "Would you gamble with your life or would you end the fight?" State redirected with, quote, "Would you stab somebody in a fist fight?" To which the student replied no. Another student who was in the bathroom simply by chance revealed that Belton High students caught in fights were fined $300 in tickets. He also confirmed that the bathroom doors can lock from both the outside and inside, but it is still unknown if the bathroom was or was not locked by Ramirez. Last up for the day was Ramirez's brother. He testified that at a prom after party, Allison acted aggressive and inappropriate toward his prom date, which...
Okay, so there it is. So now we getting somewhere, y'all. So the statement that came from Jose Ramirez's brother stated that Caysen Allison was acting aggressive towards his prom date. And then apparently, doing the brotherly thing, Jose Ramirez got wind of it and he's going to step in and defend that. So now we're starting to get somewhere with this. Yep, brother, man, the plot thickens. I wish True Will was in here. I can hear her saying it right now. The plot thickens. Shout out to True Will.
Which caused his brother to step in. Afterward, a Snapchat group was created where Allison shared with Ramirez plans to fight in the woods of West Temple Park. The trial was finished today around 12:30 due to some scheduling conflicts, so we'll hear more from Joe Ramirez's brother tomorrow.
That's what I was thinking, the informant media, the restroom door locks, and not just on one side, but both sides. Now, I know when I was in high school, they didn't have locks on those bathroom doors. Well, they did, but they were the ones that could lock it. We couldn't lock it.
When the trial resumes at 9 a.m. Ramirez's brother returned to the stand today along with 2 others. Emotions ran high today, with one member in the gallery removed from the gallery after he yelled out at the defense, calling him ignorant, and was escorted out of the courtroom. Ramirez's brother, plus a medical examiner and a close friend of Caysen, were on the stand today. Today, we learned Joe Ramirez had been previously arrested for assault when he was 18 and the victim was 17. He was brought to tears. Ramirez's brother was brought to tears when videos from that day were shown to him. The defense also asked if Ramirez was, quote, mad that Caysen fought back, to which he replied, "I'm mad that he killed my brother." Next up was a medical examiner who oversaw Ramirez's autopsy. He shared that their examination found 4 separate stab wounds on Ramirez's body. The examiner said that the cause of death was stabbing with homicide as the matter of death. We learned there was 1 large stab wound across Ramirez's chest, which caused multiple injuries to both the heart itself and the left lung, as well as 2 stab wounds on his buttocks and a wound on his upper back and left forearm. Last up for the day was a friend of Allison who shared that he had heard from others that Allison had brought a knife to school that day, but was unsure if Allison had told.
Okay, let me just rewind that part right there, because now I think I see it.
Stab wounds on Ramirez's body. The examiner said that the cause of death was stabbing with homicide as the matter of death. We learned there was 1 large stab wound across Ramirez's chest, which caused multiple injuries.
Now, she said there was 1 large stab wound across his chest. So I wonder if it was he stabbed him, because I don't know. And maybe someone in the chat can let me know what type of knife it was. It sounded like to me it was like a pocket knife of some sort. Was it one of those type of knives? Because I doubt that he's using like a kitchen knife or anything like that. But she said it was 1 large stab wound across his chest that affected the heart and the lung. So I'm wondering, when he stabbed him, did he pull the knife down in a slicing motion, like stab and then pull it down? And then I noticed they said it was 2 stab wounds on his butt, and then 1 on his lower back. So it sounds to me like Jose Ramirez was on his stomach after the first stabbing, and then he stabbed him 2 more times in the back and on the butt. Yeah, because when they say a large stab wound, that was intense. And I always tell people, when people do something like a stabbing, that's personal, because that's up close and personal. Opposed to when you shoot somebody, you can do it from a distance. Now, of course, if it's a headshot, then that's definitely personal. But I always say stabbing is more personal because it's up close. You want that person to feel that pain. Yeah, Christopher Lee. She just said that he got stabbed in the chest, but the stab in the chest affected his heart and his lungs. And they said and then he got stabbed twice in the on the butt and once in the back. That goes back to why what Don P said, instead of when he said he might have been trying to flee, when he was trying to leave, and then that's where he ended up getting him in the back. Yeah, in order to get, because most of the stab wounds were in the back, on the back side and the back. The one in the front, which was the kill shot, or the kill stab, was the one to the chest. Yeah, Don P said that was the first stab to the chest, then the victim turned to flee, and then he got it from behind. Because, like I said, the one in the chest, that's the one that he had to have died from. Because I couldn't see how he would possibly die from the one in the back, and the ones in the lower back region, I should say.
To both the heart itself and the left lung, as well as 2 stab wounds on his buttocks and a wound on his upper back and left forearm.
Now, they did say a wound on the back, so that means it probably wasn't necessarily a stab. It could have been a cut.
Last up for the day was a friend of Allison who shared that he had heard from others that Allison had brought a knife to school that day, but was unsure if Allison had told him this personally. That friend will be back next week to testify and probably talk about some evidence that was discussed today, consisting of 2 text message chains between Allison and the friend. Trial will not resume until Monday, April 21st. We'll be back for you then.
Today marked day 5 of the murder trial of Caysen Allison, with 4 more witnesses taking the stand, including 2 detectives.
One testimony that really stands out from today comes from an ex-girlfriend of Joe Ramirez and a close friend of Caysen Allison. She shared that Allison had told her directly threats towards Joe Ramirez. Another close friend of Allison returned to the stand today discussing text messages between the 2 of them, and those texts contained things like Allison saying, "Bro, bring me a gun," and discussion of Joe and their altercation at the prom after party. That friend said that the after party is where this all started, and that it was his understanding that Ramirez had pulled a gun on Allison at this party. Next up was Ramirez's girlfriend, who said that Allison had told her personally that, quote, he wanted Joe on life support and wanted to stomp his head in.
Y'all hear that? So let's go back a little bit to what she said. She said allegedly Joe Ramirez had a firearm at this party, and then according to Caysen Allison's girlfriend, I want to make sure I get this right.
And their altercation at the prom after party. That friend said that the after party is where this all started, and that it was his understanding that Ramirez had pulled a gun on Allison at this.
So allegedly, he said Joe Ramirez had pulled a gun on him at this party, and this is all alleged. That part is alleged. Now we need more witnesses to confirm that one, because if he did it at the party, that means people would have seen that.
This party. Next up was Ramirez's girlfriend, who said that Allison had told her personally that, quote, he wanted Joe on life support and wanted to stomp his head in.
He told his girlfriend, Caysen Allison told his girlfriend, that he wanted Joe Ramirez on life support and that he was going to stomp his head in. Now, here's the thing. Him saying that, his girlfriend revealing that, and then seeing what the outcome of it is in that bathroom, that makes him look really, really guilty. Because you said what you wanted to do here, and then you actually go and do worse because you actually killed him. Exactly, News 4 Thought. Sounds very, very violent.
Most of the day was spent questioning Belton police investigator Robert Preston. He shared a recovered Snapchat audio recording, which includes Allison detailing Ramirez pulling a gun on him at the prom after party, calling Ramirez names, and saying he wanted to, quote, send him to the hospital. In cross-examination, the defense mostly attempted to discredit his investigation and the methods used, asking why he didn't review certain security videos or obtain witnesses' phones.
Now, hearing all of this makes you wonder why the usual suspects didn't jump on this story and call Caysen Allison a thug. I mean, we know why. It's a rhetorical question, y'all. Y'all don't have to answer it. We know why.
When the high school was still on lockdown. Lastly, Detective Robert Gatewood shared an audio recording from when he had arrested Allison at his home. Allison can be heard asking someone to come get him and take him to Waco, followed by his arrest when he says, quote, "I was just trying to protect myself." That witness was on stand for most of the day. In cross-examination, the defense mostly asked him to discredit his investigation. There's still more witnesses to come. This trial is still ongoing. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Today, a Belton PD detective took the stand and showed evidence confirming that the lock on the bathroom door was not functioning from the inside. This comes after multiple claims from the defense that Ramirez had locked the door during the fight.
Oh, look at that. So he sat up there and lied on him. He said that Joe Ramirez locked the door, but evidence has come back and said that the lock didn't work, which means it would have been impossible for him to lock that door from inside.
Up first for the day was a Temple police officer who worked with the K-9 unit to find the murder weapon. The small black folding knife was found in a field close to the roadway where Allison had told him it was. Allison had thrown the knife out of his car window on the way home from Belton High. The investigation's primary detective, Gene Cole, testified next. He shared that Allison told him that he had taken the knife from his stepdad's closet that morning because he, quote, "knew if he saw Josh and Joe in the bathroom, there was going to be a fight." The detective also detailed.
See right there. He took the knife from his dad's closet that morning, and he said, "I knew if I saw Joe, it was going to be a fight." Still screams premeditated to me because you took a knife to a fist fight, which means if you saw them, you already knew what was about to go down. He knew what he was going to do if he saw him, and he executed it. Literally, he executed it.
Detailed Belton PD's initial questioning of Allison, sharing that Allison told him he did not remember how many times he stabbed Joe. A video taken by Detective Cole was then shown, determining that, quote, "the lock did not actually work and could not be engaged from the inside." Furthermore, Cole said that Allison had never mentioned anything to him about Joe or Josh Rios locking the door. We ended at about 2 p.m. today due to some scheduling issues, but we can expect to hear from Detective Cole tomorrow when he continues his testimony when the trial returns at 9 a.m.
Well, the prosecution rested its case today in the murder trial of Caysen Allison.
Detective Gene Cole, who was the primary detective on the investigation into the stabbing at Belton High, was on the stand for almost 5 hours, and that's just today. This isn't including his testimony from yesterday as well. After the state rested its case, the defense called 3 witnesses in the last hour of today. The full over an hour-long video of detectives' initial questioning of Allison was shown to the jury today. The video shows Allison lying his head down on the desk and eventually lying on the ground and vomiting in a trash can. In the video, Allison revealed that he took the knife from his stepdad's closet that morning out of fear of being jumped by Ramirez, and also that before Ramirez had punched him, he had pulled the knife out and told Ramirez, quote, "don't touch me or I'm going to stab you."
Y'all heard that, right? What does that sound like? What does that sound like? Now, let's really... That's why I'm so glad that I stumbled upon this, because I would not have found this any other way. So he goes and he gets the knife. We already established that he went and he got the knife from his dad's closet, and he took it there out of fear that he was going to get jumped by Joe Ramirez and anybody else that was there, even though that was not going to happen. It was always going to be a one-on-one fight, because if you looked at or hear what they're talking about, no one jumped in. Even after he stabbed him, I don't think anybody pulled him off of him. I think they were just scared and they was just shocked at what they were seeing. He then goes into the restroom where this is happening, and he tells Joe Ramirez, who's ready to square up with him, "if you touch me, I'm going to stab you." Put a pause on that. Let's go back to Austin Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony at that tent. He's sitting there minding his business, and then the Metcalf brothers come in there with Austin leading the way, and he starts to get aggressive with Karmelo and start touching his bag and all types of other stuff. And Karmelo says this, "if you touch me, there's going to be a problem." Now, don't those two things sound similar? Only difference is Karmelo said there's going to be a problem. Caysen said, "I'm going to stab you." So he tells him what he's going to do to him if he approaches him in an aggressive way, even though they had already planned to fight. Karmelo Anthony, in so many words, was ambushed by these two brothers. The usual suspects got a hold of Karmelo Anthony and turned it into what they did. The usual suspects did not talk about this at all, even though it's out there for public consumption around the same time as this. And they did not say one word. So, ladies and gentlemen, what is the definition, or not definition, what is the clear-cut difference between the two? I think we all know. Let's continue.
What followed was a long period of pushback from the defense regarding the overall investigation. They asked why Allison was questioned even though he was visibly ill, why Allison was not Mirandized in a more serious matter, and why Cole did not view security footage previously. They also asked once again why phones were not collected at the scene before the lockdown was lifted. The prosecution rested their case just before 4 p.m., and the defense then called 3 witnesses. First was the doctor who treated Allison in the emergency department. He confirmed that Allison was given a CT scan to rule out serious head injuries like a brain bleed or skull fracture, and also confirmed his diagnosis of a closed head injury. Next was a close friend of Allison who was supposed to fight alongside Allison in the planned fight off campus. He said that that fight was supposed to occur around 5 p.m. that day and take place in a 3-on-3 format. Last up was a teacher and coach from Belton High who helped stop Ramirez's brother from chasing Allison down the hallway. He shared that Josh Rios had told him that his brother was stabbed in the bathroom, and the two went to check, assuming that Ramirez...
He lucky the brother didn't catch. He lucky the teacher stopped him. They said the brother went to chase him down the hallway, but the teacher stopped him. So that's how he was able to get away.
Ramirez would still be in there. After that, he took Josh to the nurse's office and kept him in there, assuming that, quote, the best way to help Joe was to let the nurses work. In cross-examination, the accuracy of claims made by Allison's friend about who initiated the planning of the fight altogether was questioned, and Snapchat group chats were discussed. We ended right at 5 p.m. today, but we'll be back at 9 a.m. tomorrow to hear the defense continue their case.
Both the defense and the prosecution have now closed and rested their cases in the murder trial of Caysen Allison. Allison is accused of stabbing classmate Joe Ramirez nearly 3 years ago. 6 News reporter Sydney Walker has been in the courtroom since the trial started. So, Sydney, what happens now?
Yeah, both sides have rested, but they got a lot done. In the past 2 weeks, we've heard from over 30 witnesses. 5 of them took the stand today, including one familiar face. A friend of Allison shared today that he saw someone pull a gun on Allison at the prom after party, but it was not Ramirez. After that, a person testified that they had been jumped by Ramirez in the past. Later, Belton PD Captain Richard Spurgeon testified that he got a statement from Josh Rios at the hospital that day, but Rios had not been very, quote, forthcoming. He also said that they had been made aware friends of Ramirez had been seeking retribution that day. When Rios returned to the stand, the defense listed things that he failed to tell law enforcement the first time. Rios said that he was going through a lot of emotions when he was questioned by Spurgeon at the hospital, and said his brother's life was the main thing on his mind at the time. Last up for the day was Allison's mom, who shared 2 photos of Allison she had taken when he had arrived home that day on the incident, showing blood on his face and a busted lip. After both sides closed, the jury was excused until Monday morning at 9 a.m. That will give the judge and the counsel some time to discuss the charges and finalize them. When the jury returns, we'll hear that official charge and also those closing arguments.
Well, following a conference with the judge and jury today, the court has decided on a final charge for Caysen Allison. We're waiting to hear back from the court on what that charge is. 6 News was at the court during initial discussions this morning. We know the judge has instructed the jury to consider charging Allison with murder, manslaughter, or criminally negligent homicide. Right now, he's accused of stabbing classmate Joe Ramirez to death back in 2022 during a fight in a Belton high school bathroom.
Yeah, we were all waiting in the hallway anxiously for that verdict to come in, but we're going to have to wait a little bit longer because the jury in the trial of Caysen Allison has just been sequestered. They will continue their deliberations for another day. At about 12:15, the jury went into a closed room to start their deliberations and begin discussion. In the hours since then, the hallways have been packed as people are waiting. At 5, they notified people that if they left the building, they would not be let back into the building because that's when the Justice Complex closes. A food vendor, though, stayed open until 7, though he ran out of most of his supply and was left with only snacks. We saw boxes of pizza brought in for the on-duty officers, the jury, and even members of the council. Finally, the jury asked to conclude for the evening and was sequestered. They had brought a packed bag in anticipation of this.
This evening, tonight, Judge Wade Faulkner, who's the district judge for the 478th, who's been hearing the trial that y'all been covering the last couple of weeks, has ordered Sheriff Bill Cook, the sheriff of Bell County, to sequester the jury. We have moved them to an undisclosed hotel location where they remain under the security of the sheriff's office.
In reaching a verdict, all 12 jurors must agree that a charge is or is not proven beyond reasonable doubt. First, the jury must consider 3 different theories of murder. If they find none to be proven, they then consider self-defense. If neither are agreed upon, manslaughter is then discussed. If they don't agree on that, self-defense must be considered. Lastly, criminally negligent homicide is considered. Of course, they can also find Allison.
Let me put a pause right there. One of the things that they mentioned in the charges, one of those he was found guilty of. I'll let y'all figure out for yourselves, just in case y'all missed it, which one he was found guilty of, unless y'all already know what it was.
Not guilty on all charges or struggle to agree, resulting in a mistrial. Well, the court is in recess until the jury agrees on that verdict, and we are going to have to wait just another day. But the Judge Faulkner ordered the sheriff to return the jury tomorrow at 9 a.m. to consider and continue their deliberations, consider all the evidence, and hopefully we are one step closer to that verdict. I'll be back tomorrow with an update as soon as we have one. Live in Belton, Sydney Walker, 6 News.
Sydney, thanks for hanging in there. I know it's been a long day for the jury and for you. Thanks so much.
After more than 2 weeks of trial today, a jury found former Belton High student Caysen Allison guilty of criminally negligent homicide.
It's the least severe charge he faced, as the jury found him not.
There it is. Criminally negligent homicide. And it was the least, I would say the lowest of the tiers as far as charges goes. Out of everything that he could have been found guilty of, that was the lowest one of all of the charges he got hit with.
Not guilty of murder and manslaughter. We now go to 6 News reporter Sydney Walker live at the Bell County Justice Complex. Sydney, how was it today?
And the jury finally came back with their verdict today at about 10:45 a.m. This comes after they heard from over 20 witnesses, viewed, heard, saw all of the above, all sorts of evidence that led them to believe that Caysen Allison had acted criminally negligent, resulting in the death of Joe Ramirez almost 3 years ago today in that Belton High.
For those who need a definition of what criminally negligent homicide is, it says, I Googled, criminally negligent homicide is a legal term for an unlawful killing that occurs when someone causes the death of another person through criminal negligence, a failure to exercise reasonable care that is a gross deviation from the standard of care of a reasonable person. It differs from murder and manslaughter as it doesn't require intent to kill or cause serious harm, but rather a failure to foresee the risk of one's actions. So in layman terms, to sum it up, they're basically saying that he did this but didn't mean to actually do it, even though he stabbed this kid 4 times. Once in the chest that messed up his heart and his lungs, and then twice in the butt and once in the back, and wounds on the forearm. So that's the definition of criminally negligent homicide. Or basically, another breakdown is a criminal charge brought against a person who, through criminal negligence, allowed another person to die. So he basically, like someone said, he fled the scene without getting any type of medical attention for the person in which they harmed.
High bathroom. Based on the verdict, the 12 members of the jury believed that the state proved beyond a reasonable doubt that Allison had acted criminally negligent, resulting in the death of Joe Ramirez.
And as you can see, it says the judge decides punishment on June 16th, so that's a little over a month away.
After Allison was found guilty, his defense...
We'll come back and I'll do, like, if I don't do it as a video or a live, I'll just make it as a post on the community tab.
Attorney Zach Boyd asked the judge if Allison's ankle monitor could be removed. The state objected to this and asked Faulkner to find his bond insufficient. The judge denied both of these requests. Allison faces anywhere from 6 months to 2 years in prison, but we will have to wait until June 16th for that sentencing. When news of a verdict came in, people piled into the courtroom, anxiously awaiting, some even already crying. Allison's defense team acknowledged the high emotions in this case.
This was a hard case, and nobody should ever outlive their child. No human being should have their child die in a violent way.
I got a question for y'all, because we'll revisit this when the sentencing happens on June 16th, and we'll try to remember it. What do y'all think Caysen Allison is going to receive as far as a sentence goes? What do you think they're going to give him? I'm sure they're probably going to mention in here what he can get, but what do you think the judge is going to decide?
And I'm so sorry for their loss. And the Allison family is so sorry for their loss, because there is no good outcome to this.
When news of a verdict came in, people piled into the courtroom anxiously awaiting. Before the verdict was read, Judge Faulkner reminded everyone that the court would not allow any verbal outbursts, disrespect, or standing out of seats, regardless of what verdict was read. The jury had been deliberating from 12:15 p.m. last night to about 9 p.m. last night, when they then requested to be sequestered. Before the verdict was read, Judge Faulkner reminded everyone about the rules of the court, like I said earlier, and the jury had been deliberating from 12:15 to about 9 p.m. last night, when they requested to be sequestered. But they came back at 9 a.m. today, discussed for about 2 hours, and then arrived at that verdict when they found out that Allison was accused and found guilty of criminal negligence. So, yes.
And you know what's so scary about this is the fact that criminal negligent homicide was the lowest that he could be found guilty of as far as the charge goes. And the scary part about that is, if they couldn't get him on that, he could have walked completely. Like, they mentioned about self-defense. That was something that came up, even though there's nothing there. You can't claim self-defense with this. It's just no way that's going to happen. So if they couldn't get him on that, that's what they were going to go for. And he could have walked.
All right. Thanks so much, Sydney.
Right. Man, he said the charge doesn't even make sense. Well, because how does that even fit with everything that we've heard up to this point? That doesn't even make sense.
Well, the verdict come as a pivotal moment in a case that has drawn intense scrutiny since the fatal stabbing at Belton High School in 2022. The jury had 4 different options under Texas homicide law: acquittal, murder, manslaughter, or criminally negligent homicide.
They chose the least severe of the criminal options, rejecting the state's allegations that Allison intended to kill Ramirez. 6 News reporter Juliana Jackson has more on the legal implications of this verdict. Juliana?
It's important to break down the legal differences between these charges. Murder requires intent to kill or cause serious bodily injury. Manslaughter involves recklessly causing death, and while criminally negligent homicide is when someone causes death by taking a substantial and unjustifiable risk that results in death.
Often one of those cases that we refer to as splitting the baby. There were likely people on both sides of the fence. They were given many options.
Self-defense played a pivotal role in the Caysen Allison trial.
The defendant say, yes, I committed the offense. However, I was justified in doing so. So that completely shifts the narrative of the case. We don't have a defendant saying, it wasn't me, I didn't do it.
The jury's verdict suggests that they believed Allison's actions went beyond what a reasonable person would consider necessary self-defense, but did not find he intended to kill Ramirez or acted with conscious disregard for human life. Criminally,
even though he went and got the knife from his dad's closet the morning that happened, but you don't think that he...
Negligent homicide punishment ranges typically from 180 days to 2 years in a state jail facility.
Okay, so they just said it right there. They said with criminally negligent homicide, it ranges from 180 days to 2 years. But we'll see what happens when the sentencing gets passed.
However, there's one factor that could alter Allison's sentence.
If there is an affirmative finding of a deadly weapon, the judge cannot give the defendant probation.
Okay. So you heard what she just said. Let me rewind that so y'all can hear that part again.
He intended to kill Ramirez or acted with conscious disregard for human life. Criminally negligent homicide punishment ranges typically from 180 days to 2 years in a state jail facility. However, there's one factor that could alter Allison's sentence.
If there is an affirmative finding of a deadly weapon, the judge cannot give the defendant probation.
So there you have it. If they can do that, if they can pull, if the attorneys can pull that off, the ones who's representing the Joe Ramirez family on the behalf of him can pull that off, then the judge can't give him probation. He would have to do the jail time with no probation attached to it. But like I said, we'll see what happens on June 16th.
So whether or not there is a deadly weapon finding in this case is critically important.
Even though a knife was used in this case, an affirmative finding of a deadly weapon is not automatic. It must be specifically found by either the jury or the judge. Allison has chosen to have Judge Faulkner determine his sentence rather than the jury. Legal analyst Liz Mitchell says this could be a strategic decision.
We have a defendant who has never been involved in the criminal justice system. He is basically set up for...
So you heard that. They set it up where the judge determined his verdict. They did not leave it up to the jury, even though a jury was present. They must have been shook that the jury was going to find him guilty on every charge possible. So they left it into the hands of the judge to do it.
A successful wife, a jury.
Nene says, is he in custody until sentencing? As far as I know.
It's sometimes harder for jurors to put emotion aside and look just at the facts. With judges, they are looking strictly at the facts. They're looking.
While many criminal.
Then why didn't you get a jury pool that had no? Then why did you even have a jury to begin with if that was the case?
Convictions are automatically appealed. Appealing this verdict could be dangerous for Allison.
If he appeals the case and it's reversed and remanded, meaning it is sent back to the trial court, the state can try him again, and that means you are rolling the dice and could possibly be convicted of murder the second time around.
Allison will remain free on bond until sentence.
There it is, to the person who asked that question, because I wasn't sure if he was or not. So there it is. She just said he's out on bond.
Hearing, which is set for June 16th.
So he's at home right now until June 16th
at 9 a.m. At that time, we'll learn whether a deadly weapon finding will be made and whether Allison will serve his sentence on probation or in custody. You can stay updated here on 6 News.
Allison's defense attorney, Zachary Boyd, spoke moments after the verdict was delivered.
All right, folks, let's talk about this verdict. You heard it. After the jury listened to everything, after they waded through the mud and the murky waters turned up by a less than perfect investigation, they came back with criminally negligent homicide. Now, the state, they started out hard, swinging and crying murder. They wanted everyone to believe that my client, this young man, Caysen Allison, was a cold-blooded murderer.
The same way they want to believe that Karmelo Anthony is the same thing. Go figure. And mind you, this is in Texas. I'm sure you already know. Y'all seen the flag. You hear them mention Texas. But this is in Texas as well.
But that's not the verdict you heard today. The jury looked at the evidence. They looked at all of the evidence, or rather, they looked at the lack of all of the evidence, the vital pieces that were ignored or mishandled. And they said, no, not murder. They didn't even say manslaughter, which is a step down and requires recklessness or a conscious disregard of risk. No, they found criminally negligent homicide. Now, what does that mean under Texas law? It means that Caysen caused the death, but it was by criminal negligence. It's about failing to perceive a substantial and unjustifiable risk that his actions would cause the death. It's a gross deviation from what an ordinary person should have been aware. Think about that. It means the jury found he did not intend to kill, or even that he was aware of the specific risk, but decided to ignore it.
How? He stabbed him 4 times. And the kill shot was the most deadliest one because they said he plunged that knife into his chest. What do you mean he didn't have no awareness of what he was doing? He brought the knife with him. He knew what he was going to. He even said what he was going to do. My goodness. And someone left someone just left a comment. I want to respond to that. Someone said he would be found not guilty. Well, he was already found guilty. It was just on criminally negligent homicide.
They found he should have been aware based on his actions in a moment of sheer terror and chaos. This verdict, while it is not the full acquittal that we were seeking, is a clear.
Look at that. They were looking for a full acquittal of this. They wanted him. They were doing this and banking he was going to walk completely scot-free of this. Now, let me tell you something. This right here, if Karmelo Anthony, if his team pulls it off and he gets off on self-defense, they are going to lose it. I'm just saying.
Clear rejection of the state's case and the state's primary narrative. It tells us that the jury grappled with the context of what happened in that bathroom that day on May 3rd of 2022. They heard about the after prom party where someone from Joe's group pulled a gun on Caysen. They heard Sam Ramirez testify despite his own fear about witnessing that gun being brandished. They heard from Corbin Ovale tell you about Joe Ramirez's history of violence and his group and their history of jumping people.
So look, now this is the attorney doing a smear campaign on the deceased. And shout out to Hack Sign for the 2. He said, I'm white and I say so. Operation Protect the White Boy. I appreciate you. And yeah, that's basically what it is. So now the attorney is doing the smear campaign after the verdict has been passed down.
They heard Angel Murillo say Caysen didn't want to fight, and Joe tried to lock the bathroom door. Tito Chamel was the cameraman. He confirmed that Joe tried to lock the door and initiated the encounter. He also said that he was recording the fight because Joe liked to have his fights recorded. They saw Caysen's injuries from the attack, consistent with being sucker punched. They heard Caysen's own words from the interview, that he was rushed and punched after they took off their backpacks and approached him. And all of this evidence, the evidence the state often tried to ignore or minimize or mislead the jury on, painted a picture of a young man facing a perceived threat of serious bodily injury or death who was trapped in a small, confined, inescapable place.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it right here because the rest of the video is just this long statement from Caysen Allison's attorney. Like, that's really all that's left for the last 5 minutes. So y'all pretty much get the gist of it. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm gonna drop the link for people to come up. I do have to turn the timer on, especially today, because I do have to head out in about less than an hour. So we will be having the timer on for people who want to come up and speak to what they just heard or just saw over the last hour. Wallow, what's going on?
What's going on, Torian? What's going on, everybody in the chat? This case is very significant because of very one thing. Like you said, you were talking about earlier, Karmelo Anthony team, they can use this case to their advantage. Now, most likely he's not going to try to appeal his sentence, because most likely I would say if I was him, I would be like, I'll take whatever y'all want to do, like the 6 months, 2 years. Could be better, because then he ain't trying to take that risk to go back to trial and then, risk getting charged guilty. So they ain't that stupid. But that's what I would advise them to do. But I do want to send my condolences to that family, because I don't care who you are, you shouldn't be burying your child at a young age over something stupid, over a female that you don't know how long you're gonna be with. But it's a sad case. But all I got to say is, Latino community, y'all ain't fight for your boy. That's all I got to say.
All right. Shout out to Waller for coming up. Next up, we got Mr. Williams. What's going on? Mr. Williams, if you are there, we can, and you're speaking. Okay, I can hear you.
Well, I had to put my headset in. No, I was saying oh crap. Hold on. All right, I'm here. I was just saying that I'm with Wallow on this. If they can use this case as their defense, and the difference is Karmelo didn't know them boys. They, came at him, and like the what's his name? Allison, whatever his name is.
Mm-hmm.
They both said, if you touch me, something gonna happen.
That part stuck. But the thing is, notice the difference though. The difference was Karmelo said, if you touch me, there's going to be a problem. Caysen Allison said, if you touch me, I'm going to stab you. So the wording is different. With Karmelo, it's more of a warning.
Right.
With Caysen, it's more of a threat.
Right. Because Karmelo, leave me the hell alone. And I found, listening to a whole bunch of other people. Long story short, there was this brother. I don't know who he was. I think it was when Phil was talking about delineating, and he said that apparently those twins were in their tent somewhere else on the track field.
Mm-hmm.
So they walked over there to where Karmelo was at to harass him. But this is just a lot going on.
It's all going to come out in that video, and I think they're holding on to that video because they're scared to see what the outcome is going to be. So, and I think they already know. I think they already have an idea of how the public is going to react to that, depending on what side you're on. But but we shall see, though.
Right, and one more thing before I get buzzed out. Even if all the evidence shows that Karmelo was completely innocent of doing any wrong, and all he did was defend himself, they're going to still flip out, and they ain't going to care.
Of course, yeah.
Phil's even said that. But all right, man.
All right, appreciate you coming up.
Yep. Bye.
All right, shout out to Mr. Williams for coming up. All right, next up we got the birthday boy, Jonathan. What's going on? And happy
Yes, sir.
birthday, sir.
Thank you, sir. I am officially 40 years young.
Nice.
Man, how's everything going with you, man? I just wanted to tell you, man, like, man, so many updates. Like, you'll be surprised how many updates you'll get from this when you start wait for research and then, do your story. Because I didn't expect for Caysen to say the exact same familiar
Me neither.
warning. Like, hold on. So when Karmelo, because remember, Karmelo told Austin, touch me and see what happens. Caysen said, if you touch me, I'm going to stab you.
And he did it.
Yes. Karmelo, he wasn't going to just sit there and say, he was just going to give you a warning and you just have to find out for yourself. So what's the difference? The difference is one actually made a threat, the other made a warning. But you know what? But Caysen eventually got away because he's not the exact same skin color as Karmelo.
And not only with the sentencing, not the sentencing, but the charge that he got with the verdict, but he also, and this is one thing I didn't point out initially before I dropped on here for people to come up, he also escaped scrutiny, where Karmelo Anthony and his family got heavily scrutinized online, specifically on Twitter. Caysen Allison didn't go through the humiliation part of it at all.
Hey, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because they said while Karmelo's family was in the house, the reason why they relocated because they had like stuff dropped off from that house, like mail and a picture of Arthur Metcalf. They said some terrorist white folks was in front of their doors pretending to be pizza deliveries. It was like, oh hell, they was like, oh hell no, we're going somewhere else because we're eventually gonna be under attack. Something's gonna happen to us because these people keep coming to our door. Like, but Caysen, they don't even, they act like they even that he doesn't exist or the whole incident existed. But
And the crazy part about it is Caysen is not like Caysen Allison wasn't trending on Twitter, because I did see more so when the trial was going on that he was trending. So they can't say that they didn't see it or they were not aware of it. Now, here's the thing. They found out about what happened with Karmelo Anthony, and a lot of them don't even live in Texas. But you mean to tell me you didn't know about this, and this happened in the same state 3 years ago, and you never mentioned it, you never talked about it at all? Okay. I see him. I see the play.
Exactly. Like the whole thing, it happened in Texas. And come on now. And you got to realize that Texas is a Republican state, so you know how that goes. But come on now, no one would just sit there and ignore one story like that just to go to the other. Like they should, like we're the main targets. That's all you need to. Hey, thank you. What's up? Hey, thank you, Miss Matt. Hey, 40. Yeah, man. I'm at my friend's house. But yeah, you know, like I said.
I'm gonna let you go so you can go ahead and do your thing.
All right, but I just said one more thing.
Okay.
As long as we're black and they're the other color, it's always gonna be a difference, and it shows you that they're the same as Caysen, and that's why they ain't on their story.
Right. All right. I appreciate you coming up and happy birthday.
Thank you. You too. We won.
All right. Shout out to Jonathan again. Happy birthday. I let Jonathan have a little bit more time because it is his birthday, but I did start the counter back up again. And I said, okay, when it goes down to 0 this time, it's just gonna buzz. But he was about to get off anyway. But y'all so messy in this chat, especially Wallow. All right, next up we got Cosmo. What's going on?
Hey, what's good, man? And to follow up on the first caller's thing about the Latino community, exactly. I see a lot of you. I see you. A lot of you were online saying a lot of disparaging things about Karmelo Anthony. And don't act like you didn't, because we saw it. But you let this whole situation escape. And look at him. He's gonna probably get 2 years, probably. I stick with that.
that's why I said I'm gonna revisit this on June 16th when the sentencing happens to see what he gets. They said with this kind of crime he can get 180 to 2 years, but we shall see though.
And just one last thing, and I think a lot of us believe it. Look at the whole he got defensive wounds on his arms, right?
Yeah.
He got stabbed in his back. He got stabbed 3 more times. You said it was in his lower back, right? 2 in the lower back.
Yeah, he got stabbed in the chest. The chest was the kill shot because they said he plunged the knife into his chest so intensely that it affected his heart and his lung. And then he got stabbed in the lower back, twice in the butt, and then he had a wound on his arm.
And why they never explained that exactly? Why don't we know what sequence of order? You can tell.
We know the chest was definitely the first one. Like, no, without a doubt, that had to be the first one.
So this why did he only get that just perfectly sums up why he should have got more time.
Yeah, like really, because you kept going. Because the thing is, from my vantage point of it, is that he got stabbed in the chest and he naturally fell to the ground face first, which means he's on his stomach.
And then
then he stabbed him he stabbed him multiple times in the back, and then he probably tried to, when the defensive wound probably, depending on where on the forearm, if it was the front, it was probably before he collapsed. If it was the back, then it was after he collapsed, and he probably was still trying to like wave him away or trying to do whatever. And then when his brother went after him, that's when he stopped, because they said he fled, but then he got stopped by a teacher had stopped the brother from chasing him. So depending on where he was stabbed, where he was cut, like where he was cut at on the arm, that determines if it was from the front or from the back. Yep. But I don't know where on the arm he was like wounded at.
And I bet he was gonna. One last thing, he wasn't gonna come back. He wasn't gonna come back. Karmelo came back to ask about it. He stabbed one stab to run so he wouldn't get jumped. Came back and was like, "Is he okay?" This kid was gonna do that, but okay, who's the monster? And that's where I'll land my plane.
All right. Appreciate you coming up, Cosmo. Next up, we going to have, and I only got room for one more. I see Scoop is going to be after Mansa Musa. No one else clicked the link after Scoop. He's going to be the last one. All right, Mansa Musa, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hey, man. I came into the stream. It wasn't too late. I think it was like 20 minutes in. I was like, oh, okay. Talking about the Caysen thing. I said, all right. It's weird that this happened like 2 years ago, so I didn't even.
3
years. Oh, okay.
It happened. It happened in 2022. As a matter of fact, it happened the day before my 33rd birthday.
Oh,
the 3rd.
Damn, it goes to show that some of this stuff gets swept under the rug, so we don't hear about it. I'm pretty sure it was local news. It probably made local news, but it didn't hit like national news. Like,
and we know why.
Right. So it's like, just to go to show. Now, here's my thing. Are they going to treat this like, we already know they got the mental illness thing when it comes to them. Are they going to treat this criminally negligent homicide charge as a default for when things like this happens when it comes to students? Or are they going to treat that as like a default charge now, as opposed to like how they do mentally illness? Because like, if they're going to treat that like a default thing for any like one of these PC students who decide to go left, you know what I mean? Like, then what? Because this is going to be a Rittenhouse effect as far as this is concerned. Right. So, like, has anybody even thought about that part? And another thing, the teacher stopping the brother. You better be lucky that teacher was there, because if I was,
that's what I said. He lucky. I say he was lucky. The teacher stopped him from catching him, because if not, he would have caught him, and it would have been a wrap.
It'd have been man, I'd have beat shit down your leg if I caught you. It wouldn't have been no conversation to be had. Where are you going? Yeah, all right. Bend this corner real quick. But other than that, yeah, happy birthday, JG. You know what I mean? Other than that, it's just another case. I just don't know why they didn't think about the case for Karmelo if they didn't give him that negligent homicide ruling. That would have been something to look at and see. But, you know, I ain't going to hold you for too long to get out of here for the buzzer jump.
All right. Appreciate you coming up. Be on. Right, Mansa Musa, because you had 7 seconds left before that buzzer was about to kick in. All right, the last person we bringing up is Scoop. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Torian? Chat.
Doing good.
Man, we already know what this case is about. It's about skin color. That's all it's about. That's why Caysen didn't get the time that he got. That's why it kept getting lower. His bail got lowered. That's why the charges got lowered. Because Karmelo, if anything, this should have made Carmelo's case a slam dunk. Because the simple fact is, look at the optics. Caysen chased Joe Ramirez down and continued to poke him. He knew he was going for a fight. He bought a knife specifically to fight him. He already had said he wanted to basically put him down.
That part was cool. Were you in here for the whole stream?
No.
Okay. Did you catch the part when they were saying how, when the reporter had said, and this was a statement that Caysen Allison that they got from him, that if Joe Ramirez was to touch him, now this is when he has the knife. If he's to touch him, he was going to stab him. And then I sat there and said, wait a minute, let me go back to the Karmelo Anthony situation. Because didn't he say, if you touch me, there's going to be a problem? Now, one, like I was saying before, one sound like a warning and one sound like a threat. And the thing is, with the threat, it actually happened, because what happened? He stabbed him to death.
Exactly. And he ain't on his way to prison. Make that make sense. I mean, that, if anything, that's
in the same state, in the same state.
Exactly, state of Texas. That should tell you just what the problem is.
Around the same age.
Exactly, at a school.
At a school, and this actually happened in the school, not at a school event.
Not at an event.
It happened in the school, in the boys' restroom.
Yeah, so you would think that Caysen Allison would get a, you know what I'm saying? It's an open and shut case. He'd be convicted easily.
And one more thing. Here's the thing. Since everyone wants to question why Karmelo's bringing a knife, why aren't we questioning why Caysen Allison brought a knife to school?
Exactly. Because he got the complexion. That's why.
There it is.
They ain't gonna question him, but I'm gonna land it there, Torian. Good to talk to you. Peace to the chat.
All right. Shout out to School for coming up, and shout out to everybody for listen. It's crazy how we were just connecting all these dots, y'all, and it's not hard. It's really not hard. That is why I titled the thumbnail "The Blatant Hypocrisy," or "The Blatant Hypocrisy is Real," because we literally, listening to that, we was able to pull out so many hypocrisies in that video, mainly from that part with the statement that he said about, if you touch me, I'm going to stab you. I'm like, y'all got more mad at Karmelo Anthony for what he said, but y'all said nothing about Caysen Allison. Again, but we know why that is. We know why that is. But anyway, y'all, shout out to everybody that came up. Shout out to Caysen for contributing to the super chat today. I greatly appreciate it. Shout out to all the mods, the members, the people over on Patreon. Listen, the people over on Patreon, the reason why y'all didn't get a video yesterday is because I prematurely mistakenly uploaded it on Tuesday instead of Wednesday. So if y'all didn't see the video yesterday, that's why. But I'll try to make sure that I'm back on track next Wednesday. But tomorrow, you know, we're going to have the two videos, the 10 a.m. and the 6 p.m., you know, as usual. The next time I'll be live will be on Saturday. That'll be at 12 noon as well. So be on the lookout for that on Saturday. And with that being said, everybody, y'all go ahead and enjoy the rest of your day. It is lovely outside. This is my time. This is my time of the year. I love the spring. Y'all enjoy the rest of your day. Be safe, and most importantly, be one.